And our last speaker of this session is Bernd. Bernd was connected to the Chaos Computer Club already mid-80s. He's a hacker and a security expert. We met nu after 25 years again. And Bernd is director of the Wouw Holland Foundation. Wouw Holland died in 2001. And in his memory and his ideas, the Wouw Holland Foundation is created. And Bernd will talk with us about the future of hacking.
So first of all, it's of course much easier to talk about the future than to talk about the past, because you will not know if I tell nonsense for the next 5 years. Okay. So we have heard some interesting talks and the performance earlier today about the history of hacking. So in this talk, I will actually focus, or try to focus on the future of hacking. But of course, no one can predict the future, not even me. So I'm only going to talk about a possible future of hacking. As you heard, Jim, I'm on the board of the Wouw Holland Foundation. So the Wouw Holland Foundation is kept in memory of Wouw. And of course, Wouw's idea will have an important impact on the future, I think. But of course, talking about the future of hacking makes little sense without talking about the history and the current affairs of hacking at least a bit. Let me start with some musings about the past and the present. History, as we have all learned in school, is written by the winner. And so it's no wonder that our history books are full of truthless stories of fame and glory that never happened. Listening to presentations about hacking in the past, I sometimes start to believe, especially if these talks are given by people from the hacker community itself, that for some very strange and unknown reasons, hackers have suddenly become winners of a sort. Because now we can at last start to carve our own narrative into stone as a matter of historical truth. So it looks like. But a common aphorism among hackers is the following. Every story has 4 sides. Your side, the other side, the truth, and what really happened. So let us stop talking about the truth behind these famous hacks we all heard about in the past. Just forget about them. Instead, let us talk about what really happened. Certainly, there are some historical facts known about, for example, the CCC in the last 3 decades. And a short list of that would look like this. The hackers from the CCC exploited the German BTX system, Bildschirmtext system, to transfer some $100,000 from a bank to their own account. Not the bank account, but to their own account. Hackers from the CCC and others hacked into Western computer systems and transferred information to the Russian KGB between 86 and 88. We heard about that a lot today. Or hackers cloned from the CCC cloned a cell phone SIM card in 1997 that could be used to make calls and send and receive messages on behalf of the legitimate owner of the cell phone. But all these events come with a legend about why things were done and how they happened. And more often than not, these legends are a pure transfiguration of the facts. It is an excusable human trait to find good reasons for your own behavior, especially in retrospect, and especially if you find yourself suddenly under a criminal investigation. One good example of such romanticization still living in the CCC is that of what we have heard earlier today, hacking for the KGB as a kind of peace mission to prevent World War III. And it real? It was all about money and drugs. It was about naivety and ruthlessness. But nonetheless, I think we as hackers did something right in the past, especially when it comes to our fight for civil rights and liberties in our society. Our aim was never the information society. It was what we struggled for was the informed society, where freedom of information, freedom of communication, informational self-determination, privacy, and anonymity are granted to everyone, everywhere. And we had an hacker ethics. I strongly believe that our former value system of how and why to do things is our most valuable legacy. We should carry on that into the future, not all these fancy hacks we talked about earlier. But what about the present then? What I can see is that more and more hackers become pawns in the game and the latest playgrounds for intellectuals, artists, and wannabe friends. Nerds, often enough with severe autistic traits, are simply too naive to take the attention of a lot of these peoples of what they really is, an exploitation of their kind. The fascination of certain circles of the establishment with hackers today often reminds me of the treatment of overseas natives as noble savages by European intellectuals in the 19th century. I'm not sure if that alone can explain why I consider the current situation of hacking to be severely threatened at its core. Or is it because more and more so-called hackers can easily compromise themselves without external pressure or temptations? I'm talking about a deteriorating value system in the hacker community. I'm talking about fragmentation and hierarchy. Hackers that are neglecting solidarity with their own kind. And the list of this is nearly endless. It's about the PayPal 14. It's about Jeremy Hammond. It's about Julian Assange. It's about Barrett Brown, Gottfried Walk, Chelsea Manning, and so many others. It's about, in the hacker community, it's not a democracy, it's not a dictatorship, but most of them call it a meritocracy. But sometimes it's on disputable grounds. But even worse is the influence of commercialization and adoption within the hacker communities to current standards. Believe it or not, there are so-called hackers with software patents. That's like a non-smoker with a cigar, or a married Catholic priest, or something like that. I mean, crazy. For me, that's completely crazy. They start releasing software just as open source, but not as free software. They think it's fine to use Apple hardware and Facebook services. And even worse, some even believe it's okay to work for such companies. And they are starting to embrace the mainstream. What does that mean? It's about having fun with technology, but avoiding political positions. Sorry, can I have something to drink? In this special case, I'm talking about the hackerspaces, probably you heard about. That's places popping up all over the world where people meet to do something together. They are called hackerspaces. But an important part of this being a hackerspace is to avoid political positions for whatever reasons. I don't know. It's being friends with the powers to be. It's about preparing for the march for the institutions. So, yes, we want change, but we can achieve change by adapting to the rules of others. And yes, we once had an hacker ethics as a moral guideline, so to speak. But its spirit beyond the written words have become an empty shell over the years. The hacker ethics certainly needs an overhaul, as it is not partially adopted to the currently entanglement of technology, hackers, and society at large. A discussion about hacker ethics 2.0 should be a starting point for a trip into the future. So, what will a possible future of hacking look like? Well, the answer to this question is simple and obvious. The future of hacking will be as we want it to be. The more important question that needs to be answered is, what do we want? And how do we achieve that? I can't answer the question, what do we want, for any one of you, but I can contribute a small suggestion on the answer to the question on how do we achieve it. Maybe we can start with just a slight shift in the paradigm. Why not let us begin to praise hacks no longer by their technical brilliance alone, but also by their usefulness to make this world a better place. I mean, we can, of course, discuss endlessly about what's useful and what's a better world. but I think it's about the direction we are going. And us actually means everybody, not just hackers, especially non-hackers. Often confused by the technical details of a hack, need to get more involved in this discussion. I would love to see people everywhere talking about the usefulness of a hack as much as they do about its technical details. These new discussions will certainly help us to shape answers for the question, what do we want? I'm aware that such an innocent suggestion would trigger some commotion within the hacker community. Behind the scenes, it means a hard reset and a new ranking algorithm for the hacker charts. Old meritocratic hierarchies might break down, as the former merits of an elite are now seen in a different light. Transition is unavoidable. If adopted, this could also change the sort of hacks we see in the future. Hacks usually don't happen out of the blue, but require a huge investment of free time and energy, and a lot of them are painstakingly orchestrated and arranged. A modified value system can shift the attention from one sort of hack to another if the latter one is more promising in terms of reward, merit, for such an investment. Useful hacks will win. This new way of thinking about hacking can even change our perception of our history of hacking. Maybe we start to remember other hacks, much more important under the new value system, like that the CCC built one of these early communication devices to allow people to connect to the network. Or they help political institutions and parties to understand technology much better and make decisions about how to introduce them. That was 1986 in the German parliament. Or German hackers that operated the Samia mailbox network in Sarajevo, Ljubljana, Zagreb, Pakrac, Belgrade, Tuzla, and Pristina during the war in Yugoslavia as early as 1991. So this is a different kind of hacks we see here. As you can see, these points are not just about isolated hack events. It's not about breaking into a computer or whatever. Hackers are constantly involved in many different kinds of projects all the time, like writing free software, teaching people about technology tools for privacy and anonymity, managing infrastructure for an NGO, providing resources for political activists or other people who need our help. In the light of the new paradigm, such endeavors are probably higher ranked than many of the hacks we have seen and heard of today. Why not follow that new road? Of course, the realm of hacking is not isolated from what happens around it. Our actions are at least partly directed by the current situation of the society at large. Karl Marx once said, "Religion is opium for the people." He was wrong, or at least he is wrong in our socio-economic reality. It would be more right to say, internet is opium for the people. Don't get me wrong. I love the internet. I'm convinced that it can play an important role in the transformation of societies. It has already happened in a few places, and it will happen again. And it can be our tools and infrastructure that is useful in these sort of events. But the internet has one downside. People often use it as an escape route from reality. Much cheaper than the usual drugs too, and not to mention its legality, well, in most cases. Living in a parallel virtual reality within the internet seems to lift the burden of acting and caring for the real world at nearly no costs. Everything's fine as long as the stream of distractions are constantly flowing. So who cares about the total surveillance that comes with it over the same cables? Well, we do. Sometimes it's hard to say what you want. Sometimes it's easier to say what you don't want and to apply a logical complement operator to the result. First, we don't want total surveillance on us by anyone. But we have to understand that no law or regulation of any kind will ever stop secret agencies or anyone else from doing so. We have to find other, including technical means, to achieve our goal. Organizing crypto parties is a good start, but we can't stop here. We have to think bigger. Second, we don't want the old internet back with all its messed up protocols. We want something new on top of it. Something that has a built-in resistance against censorship and surveillance. Something that honors your privacy and anonymity while allowing you to access all the information and knowledge you want. something that makes the internet a better place for everyone. To achieve that, we could make use of some 3 small guidelines. First of them is ACT. Nothing is more important than to get things done. Expecting fairies to write your code or to do your other work is simply childish. Only ask yourself, is that what you're doing is legitimate? Don't care about legality. It's more important to act according to your own belief than to the beliefs or orders of others. And therefore, we have to consider everything political. There is no escape from that. The time of the playfulness that was mentioned earlier, I think it is gone. But we hackers are not alone in this world. We have to find our real friends, people who share a common value system about freedom of information, freedom of communication and expression, informational self-determination, privacy, and anonymity, and civil rights for all mankind, and not only in the digital realm. Together, we can achieve so much more than we can do alone. This is about our future. Let us start hacking it. Thank you.